Hello everyone, here is Gaia Legend with a new video about The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. And in this series, we are going to explore my theories about the coolest temples and dungeons from the game. We will go and try to explore every inch of them, including the symbolism that some Zelda tubers might have missed. You know me, symbols are my favorite thing to find. Swirl, 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 swirl. So let's not waste any time and jump right in. In this episode we will explore the very first area and dungeon called the Forsaken Fortress. This large defensive structure is the home of the terrible monster Ganondorf and his minions. But once upon a time, this place was used for something entirely else, as the fortress is in fact cursed, as some like to call it like that. The word Forsaken is important to this aspect, as the word Forsaken means abandoned, or in better terms, deserted. It was long ago abandoned by the original people that once used it for their own reasons. During Link's exploration of the fortress, he sneaks around trying to save his little sister Errol that was kidnapped by the large bird, the Helmere King. And during this exploration, he sneaks around trying not to be caught by all the pirate-like minions that walk around the base. Creatures like mini-blinds that run around trying to keep Link at bay, and with their trident-like weapons, they show their allegiance to Ganon, as the trident is his weapon of horror. The mini-blinds also seem to have teardrops on their foreheads or above their noses, which is interesting as it gave me the instant feeling of something called a secret stone from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Not only that, there are also other things we can find with tears, like the Sheikah tribe shields that hang at the boss room of this place. But we will get to that later. What interested me the most though is the secret stone that Tetra gave to Link, which is called the Pirate's Charm, and it was in fact a secret item crafted by Daphnis Nohensen Hyrule, as he said that it was in fact an ancient gossip stone that we've seen in the other games. It almost gave me this strange feeling though, because gossip stones used to be a part of the Sheikah tribe as well, before they got wiped out in this timeline. The dungeon island has multiple flashy lights surrounding the place that is used for defense by Link's enemies, and Link has to sneak around in order to not get caught. This sneaking mechanic, however, has been done before. This mechanic is more of a reference to the very first Gerudo hideout, where Ocarina of Time Link has to sneak past the guards to save all the carpenters from their imprisonment, and this mechanic was then used again in Majora's Mask within the pirate fortress. Wind Waker came after Majora's Mask, so in turn they are connected in some way. Not lore-wise, but gameplay-wise. These same Gerudo pirates, however, once lived within this fortress as well, long before Ganondorf took over. But there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye, and yes, I said eye on purpose. Some time ago I watched a video from the YouTuber The Obsessive Gamer, and I'll put his channel down below in the description. And in this video, cut and altered dungeons of Zelda Wind Waker cut content, he showed that in the beta version of the game, there was a large eye symbol above one of the doors that you had to shoot at, like what we saw in the previous games, but got removed as it was most likely not a great way to open doors within Wind Waker, and got scrapped. Now this eye symbol, however, is quite important to my video here, as it tells a bigger picture about the fortress. In the previous games, the eye symbol was used in other dungeons but also in training areas. The fortress itself looks very defensive and strong, but it doesn't look like to have a large defensive purpose at all. Ladders are scattered everywhere, the roads to the rooms are misleading or strange. It's almost like it was made for training your awareness and your stealth skills, something that a ninja would do. When Link tries to get to the island to save his sister, Tetra tells him something crucial to the story of the fortress. The place has many rumors, but it was said to be cursed, and long before Ganondorf took over, the island once belonged to a different kind of pirate faction that weren't exactly great pirates according to her. But now, they have disappeared. Why is that? This is because my suspicions are that the creatures roaming around the fortress used to be the people living here until they gave in to the powers of Ganondorf and became part of his crew to guard the island and became transformed monsters instead. But there's a lot more going on too that doesn't meet the eye, unless you see it. There's a large broken in half ship on top of the fortress, which became a small oversight for Ganondorf to watch over. However, how did this ship even got there in the first place? When Ganondorf escaped from his imprisonment, the goddesses tried to stop him and created a flood that ultimately drowned the entirety of Hyrule and its inhabitants. But during his escape, he found one of the Sheikah ships and stole it, and he floated across the ocean while the high waves reached the heavens. The larger water wave killed all the Sheikah that were left at the fortress that once belonged to them as a training ground, and the ship fell on top of the Forsaken Island. This was the start of Ganondorf's rise, as he found another creature that he could have used to his advantage, the Helmarok King. To celebrate his return, he gave this giant bird the title of king and flew around the islands looking for the Triforce, which he could not find. His plan was at the end to just wait for the Hero of Time to return, so that he could complete his mission and rule over Hyrule and the seas instead. But this hero never returned, so his only option was to wait and see what fate had in store for him. The Helmarok King, bringing power back to Ganondorf, is an actual reference to a multitude of things. One of them is the Phoenix, the Greek bird of rebirth, that tells the story of Ganondorf's return. It's the exact same reference to what we saw in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword with the Phoenix. And Pokemon also has a similar reference too, with Ho-Oh, which is also based on the Phoenix and has a similar tail as an example. So I could be wrong with this one, but they do seem to have a similar design. In the boss area where we fight the king, notice that on the ground we see another symbol with swirls surrounding it. Now, because the game is called Wind Waker and we fight a huge bird, this could be the meaning of wind that we see in other paintings, in historic designs of other things. However, we've seen these symbols before, which was also in Skyward Sword. When you check the ground in the second Gerahim fight, you see something very familiar. It is because they are the same thing. They show the same design and it's the same concept. The boss is right in the middle of it and it has a sun symbol as well. This is because it's all related to Buddhism and Shinto religion. So the theme of this island is rebirth. The whole game is about rebirth. Ganondorf doesn't have his full power yet during his escape to this island. It was later in the game that allowed Ganondorf to use his full power when Link drew the Master Sword from its pedestal. It is the same reason as to why we get the Skull Hammer here. The Skull Hammer was supposed to be a normal looking hammer, but was changed into a post-styled hammer instead, which is a ghost, and is the same weapon that was capable to beat the Helmarok King, which also hides his face behind a mask. Phantom Ganon, another ghost-like being, is another example of showing Ganondorf's real actual power, but is just another form of energy that had another rebirth, as we saw him also in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. During the scenic rebirth of the Demon King and his power slowly rising from its slumber, Ganondorf was able to teleport around the world, but not enough until someone pulled the Master Sword from its pedestal. That was his moment to strike, and why we saw him waiting for it in the Forsaken Fortress. It was all he needed for his ultimate invasion. The Sheikah, the guardians of the royal family, unfortunately didn't survive this flood, and they all perished by it. It could be that there are still some of their offspring running around the villages and so on, but their ancient magic and protection that they gave to the family is all but gone now. The ending of Wind Waker was more of a reset to start off a new storyline for some of the handheld Zelda games, and so the Sheikah became a thing of the past. But what about the Gerudo? Did they die too? The answer lies within this fortress too. Sun worshipping wasn't only done by the Sheikah and the ancient ancestors, it was also done by the Gerudo. In Ocarina of Time, we see countless sun symbols with the Spirit Temple and the training ground, and the land is one giant desert. This to me implies that the Sheikah and the Gerudo, after the fall of Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, once worked together in order to maintain order in Hyrule. This explains why Ganondorf is still the last remaining Gerudo within the entire game. In Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the Gerudo happened to have vanished too, with the exception that some of them ran away to a different part of the desert, which I still think is silly and sound the same as the Divine Beast explanation they used for Tears of the Kingdom. But to me, something entirely else happened, but you can check that out in my Twilight Princess series. The Gerudo became pirates much later, and most likely took control over the fortress, as the Gerudo have a tendency to become evil or bad compared to all the other races. And here the Sheikah decided to dismiss their allegiance with the Gerudo, and that's where the slow demise eventually began, once the flood eventually appeared. So what happened to the Sheikah in the end of it all? They prayed to the goddesses, and they were the guardians of Hyrule, sacrificing themselves in order to protect the world from evil. But this unfortunate event also brought doom to the Gerudo, with the last remaining Gerudo king beginning a new cycle, a rebirth if you will, within the evil cursed Forsaken Fortress. So, what did you think about this theory? Do you have your own theories as well, or have any other ideas about what could have happened on the island? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you've liked the entire video, tell me that as well, because I can then focus on more things like this as well. I'm sorry that my videos are a little bit of a slow burn, or it takes me a while to create them, but I'm trying my best to create them, as I have some issues with like my I don't know, my devices here and stuff like that, but I'm working on it, so that shouldn't be an issue. Anyway, as I was saying, I really appreciate you guys for being here, still supporting my channel and my stuff. And yeah, I appreciate it so much. You have no idea. It's cool. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one when we talk about the Dragon Roost Island, the second dungeon in this game, in Wind Waker. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.